Thanks for tuning into No Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going to talk about a wine that emanates from the southern Rhone region of France by the name of Cairanne. And Cairanne is an actual old ancient Roman city that actually has a wall around it, and it's surrounded by vineyards, and it actually sits on a stony outcropping. When we look at where Cairanne is in the southern Rhone, it's about 10 kilometers in a triangle from Châteauneuf-du-Pape, Gigondas, and Rasteau. So it's in very, very good territory. Now the grapes that are grown here, 95% of them are black skin grapes that are used to make red wine, and 5% are green skin grapes that are used to make white wine. Now the black skin grapes are dominated by three specific varietals, and that's Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. When we look at the lesser, the 5%, those green skin grapes, they are Grenache Blanc, they are Claret, Roussanne, Marsanne, and Viognier. Now, Cairanne has been on quite a journey, and when we look at any wine that emanates from France, there's one organization that sets the tempo for how high a wine will get in the echelon of the wine world, and that's the INAO, and that stands for Institut National d'Origine et de la Qualité. And in 1953, the folks from Cairanne applied for Côte de Rhone status, and they were awarded that. So at that point, a Cairanne wine was just like all the other generic wines produced in the southern part of Rhone. It was a Côte de Rhone, kind of a faceless, appellationless wine from that area. And in 1967, Cairanne was awarded Côte de Rhone village level. So in other words, they were a elevated village, not to cru level status, but elevated. So you would look on a bottle of wine from 1967 on, and it said Côte de Rhone Village Cairanne on it. And because of that, they moved up another notch. Well, in 2008, the vignerons in Cairanne applied back again and said, we want to be cru level status. We're in the midst of all these other cru level areas. We have tradition, we have diversity in soil and climate, and we would like to be elevated to that status. So from 2008 all the way to 2016, that application process played out. And in 2016, Cairanne was given provisional cru status. That's important specifically to this bottle of wine, because this is a 2016 vintage, so this technically would be the very first vintage that Cairanne was a cru level wine. Well, provisional status is one thing. Until you're officially awarded cru status, you're still provisional. If you go back and watch some No Wine in No Time videos, you see that we visited the southern part of Rhone in 2018. And it wasn't apparent to me at that time, but the date that Cairanne actually got its official status was June 25th, 2018, my wife's birthday, so I remember that. We were in Cairanne, and that was the day they officially got cru level status. So quite fascinating. I didn't even know it when I was there, and that's actually how it played out. So let's get back to those microclimates, because that's very, very important when you talk about how a wine in France gets from a generic Côte de Rhone wine to a cru level wine. It's because it has something special. So in those microclimates, we have three distinct areas. The first one is in the west, and it's the Terraces of Aygues, and that's an area where we have pebbles, clay, and very fine sand. And this produces wines that are very fresh, in other words, higher in acidity, lots of complexity, and have a lot of finesse. This wine that we're about to taste comes from that area. In the north, we have the Miocene Hillsides, and that's stony outcroppings that are loaded with a soil type called marl, which is a limestone type of soil. They produce powerful, spicy, and full-bodied red wines. Then in the south, we have stony alluvium type of soils. And alluvium is actually river rock. And underneath that river rock, we have fine-grained soil. And that produces aromatic and spicy type of wines. So even within one specific cru appellation, we can have all of these different styles of wines being produced from what is a very small area. Cairanne as a whole, only 1,900 acres under vine. So let's go ahead and taste this wine. You've waited long enough. So this wine is that 2016, the very first cru vintage from Jean-Luc Colombo. And if you see on the label, it says 2016 Cairanne, the first time they were able to legally put that on a wine label. And if we look at the wine, the first thing we'll see that it's very, very dark purple in color. It's quite difficult to see through, but you do have some kind of garnet edges on there. So I'll go ahead and swirl to liberate the aromas. And what comes out of the glass is exactly what we would expect from that kind of pebbly clay type of soil. We have aromas that are much dark in the area of, let's say, plum and cherry. And I'm smelling almost like an incense type of spiciness to it, maybe bordering on licorice. So let's go ahead and taste the wine and see how it presents itself. Very nice. So this 2016 Jean-Luc Colombo Cairanne enters in the palate with a very bright kind of black cherry burst. And then it kind of fades almost into like a spiced plum pudding, where we feel everything on the palate from beautiful acidity that gives it a lift to the spice notes that come out in the wine. We have everything from that licorice comes back to visit, to even a little bit of almost like a cinnamon type of baking spice in the background. On the back side of the palate, we have tannins that are fairly firm but not overbearing, which give it kind of a very velvety texture. Now, what would I pair this wine with? Traditionally, in this area, one of the big dishes that is served is lamb or goat with a rosemary type preparation. And I think these are absolutely beautiful for that. But any type of rustic meat will do, anything from venison, which is deer, to stag and even boar, I think would be quite delightful. So I'm going to get back and enjoy a little bit more of this Cairanne. And I ask that you come back next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.